Hi, folks. You're watching That Funny Podcast, and we're here with TaTa Cherise. She'll be on the Laugh My Pancreas Off comedy event August 24th. Doors opening at 6 p.m. and the show's at 7 p.m. at Trenton Thunder Ballpark. TaTa, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about, what brought you to the Laugh My Pancreas Off event? How did you get involved?
I was referred by Peggy, and, the producer was already like a fan of mine and seeing my work. So they were like excited to finally get in touch with me. I've been hearing that I've been hard to reach. I'm like, oh, wow, am I there? I'm still poor. Like,
No, that's when you know you've made it, when you're hard to reach. Now you're like,
Yeah, that's not how I know I made it. I want to see the bucks. I want to see the big bucks. But when I heard about the show itself and the concept, it did resonate with me a little bit because of, some family history with cancer and everything. And I was just like really excited,
You mentioned you had some family history with cancer. Obviously, if you don't mind, just curious.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. Yeah. I'm pretty much an open book for the most part, because I feel like we can learn from each other because we have similar experiences. My father passed away from cancer. I want to say it was 2017. It was actually the year I started comedy and part of the reason I started. I told him on his deathbed, I'm like, Dad, I'm a comedian. And then he died. So that probably wasn't the best punchline. No, God rest his soul. But he told me to, be the best, that I can be while doing it because it was news to him. I was playing with the idea of starting stand-up, but I wasn't fully in it yet. And he was sick at the same time. So like once he really passed, I took it really serious. I was going through a breakup and my father passing in the same month. And then a few months later, I just kind of like, okay, I'm going to take this serious.
I had the exact same thing happen to me. I had a breakup and my dad passed away to cancer in the same month. Yeah.
Oh my God, that month was insane.
That's an insane trauma combo, right?
Wasn't it? It was just like, who do I cry to? Like,
yeah, that was literally. So I've never met anyone who's had the exact same thing. I had that exact experience. Yeah, same month within like a 2-week period.
Yeah, mine was a 2-week period as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Father passed away to pancreatic cancer, and then lost my girlfriend. Left me within like 2 weeks after, and that was it. I was like, wow, this is a lot going on at once.
Wow. And my father, I think my father's cancer started in his balls, and then it worked its way to the pancreas and other parts of his body. It kind of spread, and He wasn't in the States. He was in Jamaica, so their access to certain healthcare was really, not the best compared to what we have here. So I think if he was in America, he probably would have lasted a bit longer. But I watched him like deteriorate for like 6 months.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's not easy. It's a tough thing to go through.
Yeah.
But I guess this is where, what we're doing here is of use because we're trying to raise money and awareness. And I think, obviously being a comedian, we're able to kind of, maybe destigmatize some of these issues because I think people get when you discuss death or when you discuss cancer, people get very tight, and understandably so. But using humor can be a very healing way of addressing these issues, yeah?
Yeah, I most definitely. My entire brand is kind of based on laughing at my pain. One of my favorite comedy specials from Kevin Hart is actually his first special, Laugh at My Pain. That alone, I think every comic can kind of feel a connection to that. There's people who probably don't do personalized comedy where they're talking about family, death, trauma, or, there's some comics out there who don't touch that at all. But I realize I feel a closer connection, and I feel like people in general feel a closer connection to those who dive into their own trauma and make a joke of it. Because you never know who's going through the same exact thing. Like, what are the odds that we both went through a breakup and loss of our dads within the same months, 2 weeks apart? Like,
pretty awesome exclusive club.
So that's like really crazy. But I don't know. The whole laugh at my pain thing, laughter brings healing. Laughter definitely brings healing, in a physical sense, in a mental sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it's funny. Like it kind of, you're right. There's like this fine line between tragedy and humor. And it's interesting when you tell me that you started comedy after a lot of, trauma in a lot of ways, because there is this quality where it helps us bring joy where maybe joy wouldn't be otherwise. I don't know. I'm sure you see it with audiences all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
So in your let's jump a little bit into your comedy. What kind of topics do you like to cover? Obviously, I can suspect a lot of relatable stuff, a lot of just life stuff. I've seen.
I think there's going to be levels to my comedy the more I rise in my journey. And the more I do this, the longer I do this, I'm attacking different parts of my life. Right now, my comedy is pretty much me introducing myself to the world,
Okay.
me speaking on insecurities, weight loss mission. The weight loss jokes are hilarious, and being a bigger girl in the world. My past experiences growing up in an urban area or all black community and then going to a predominantly white college. I'm pulling stories from my past experiences of what I lived so far. I think in the future, like once I finally put out a special, I'll go into the next tier of my life of, the things I want to talk about. But right now, it's been a lot of me introducing myself.
That makes sense. So yeah, it's very autobiographical.
Yes. I approach it that way, even with my writing.
Right. And yeah, it's very relatable. I'm sure a lot of things you discuss. I'm just curious. You were saying there's that phase 2. What's phase 2? Like super existential or?
Phase 2 might be I think phase 2 for me would be an extension of some of the traumas that I dealt with as a child, because you got to think about it. I'm mostly booked for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes.
Right.
I'm booked anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. But when I get that first hour that I, get to present to the world, I'll get to go a little bit more in depth with those stories that I've kind of just grabbed like a cute, like a 1-2 storyline from, where I'm doing a quick little punchline. I get to like dive into those a little bit more once I have the ability to do more time, do that hour. So I think the next phase will be just a more in-depth storytelling of what I've been doing now, if I could say that much. And then the next phase after that for me would probably be worldly topics. I'm trying to play with worldly topics right now. I just find it so easy to talk about myself. It's like, I know me, the world, we don't know what the hell is going on out here.
How do you make sensitive topics funny? Because when you talk about yourself, or when we talk about things like we were just talking about cancer and things like that, these are tough topics. How do you thread that needle?
I actually approach sensitive topics with the idea in mind of making the person that it's about laugh. Mm-hmm. So if I'm, let's say I'm talking about Asian people, I want to create this joke so that Asians actually laugh. Right. I approach with that demeanor, and a lot of that sometimes might be the tone of my voice, and the way I'm telling the joke, and just making sure I'm not saying anything super ignorant. But, sometimes it can come across, we say wild stuff as comics. Like, we say really wild things, but intelligent comics find a way to not hurt people's feelings in the midst of it all.
That's a great way of putting it. I think knowing that your heart is in the right place, knowing that you're being inclusive, that you care about people, I think people can tell the difference usually.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you attack all groups, it doesn't matter.
That's true too. If you just machine gun it,
everybody can get it. I'm a machine gun the whites, the blacks, the Asians. Everybody's getting it.
Everyone feels bad by the end.
Yeah, by the end of the night, we're all like, well, you know what? You guys do that. You guys do that too. Like,
right. That's hilarious.
I think I approach things a lot too with wanting people to know how similar we actually are.
That's a really great point too. And you're right. When we show that kind of vulnerability, we do see in the end how similar we are. I think we create all of these like kind of illusory differences between ourselves. But at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want many and most of the same things. And
yep, exactly.
And laughter isn't it great? It's always beautiful to me when you get into a great comedy room and you do see people from all different walks of life, all kind of laughing together in that moment, sharing a moment. It's really. It's quite beautiful. Of course, we can't say that on stage because it would be corny. But...
Right. Exactly.
Right. Isn't this wonderful? Everyone just teary-eyed on stage. Everyone's like, what?
I've had moments like that. I probably can count 2 moments. I was telling a joke that I wasn't quite ready to tell because my mother is a drug addict. Okay. So I also have that part of my life. And doing those jokes, it's 50-50. Sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. And when I say don't, it doesn't mean the actual joke is bad. I just feel a sadness from the audience instead
Right.
of laughter. Like they start feeling bad for me. I'm like, wait, it's my mom, not yours. But like, but you know, people get empathetic, and I'm like, oh man, I wanted you to laugh at that shit, not
I had the same
don't
thing. I was doing
cry.
a joke about like breakups, and they all kind of went aw. Instead, I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like it's supposed to be yeah.
Exactly. So
Getting
I've
too
had
much
moments
empathy from the
where
crowd. Yeah.
exactly. I've had moments where I wasn't quite ready. A veteran comic said to me, he was like, the jokes about your mom aren't landing yet because you haven't healed from it yet.
It's an interesting observation. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. After he said that, my mom was clean for a little while, for a few months, and I was spending time with her. And while I was doing the jokes, while she was clean, they were landing because me and her were. So I was like, oh wow, this dude was right. I mean, she's back out there, so I don't want to say I'm back at square one, but at least I got more comfortable with the actual joke that I was telling. So it doesn't come across as sad as it did when I first told it.
Isn't it weird how much audiences can pick up on where your state of mind is? It's like they can read it at a level that they're not even aware of. Because you're right. Like I've noticed, like even when, say, for example, when you're taking old material that no longer resonates with you emotionally, like when it did resonate emotionally, the audience, you'll get a big laugh, a big pop. And then when it's kind of old and dusty, and you're like, I don't really believe in that anymore. Even though you feel like you're selling it, you see you don't get the laugh. They can feel that you're not with it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's the energy. The energy. They can feel our energy up there.
Right.
They can feel when we're nervous. So they for sure can feel like sometimes when we're sad, depending on how we deliver the joke and what the joke is about. Because a lot of comics turn stage time into therapy sessions.
I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
We've all seen that one. You're like, okay, you should probably get some help.
What do you think is the most challenging part of being a comedian?
There's no direction.
Yeah.
There's no direction. There's a set of things that we know we have to do. We know we need stage time. We know we need to touch that microphone as many times as possible to get better. That's the only thing that if you want to really pursue a comedy career as a stand-up comic, that's something that you know for sure you have to do. But as far as where to live, what shows to take on, what shows to turn down, you know, which direction to go with, how to build your audience, the business of it might be the hardest part for me. Which I think I'm doing much better this year than ever before as far as the business part. But to me, that's the most challenging. It's not the actual being funny part.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought about that. Yeah, like for a lot of comics, it's like sometimes the day-to-day life stuff is the hardest, or taking your artistry and finding a way to sort of package it in a business and into a business, because it really is, it's art at its essence.
Yes.
But the business is business. So it's like you're trying to work in these very different worlds.
And it's funny that you mentioned the word art, because with art to me comes from emotion. You know, many artists, they put their emotion into their art. I feel like we're included in that as well. So if you're not emotionally fine, some days it can be hard to go out there and make others laugh. Now, I will say I'm 50-50 with it. I'll have my moments where I'm like, oh, I got to do this show. I'm not really feeling mentally okay. However, once I get there, if I kill, which most times I do, especially if I'm not okay, I'm like, okay, that was therapeutic. You know what I mean? But everybody, you know, isn't like that. Some people, so we have to go and perform regardless of what mood we're in, basically is what I'm saying.
How do your sets change based on mood? Do they change based on mood, or are you able to kind of get yourself to the same place?
I've had times I've abandoned my entire set and just talked about my day. Okay. Especially if some crazy shit happened. If I had a wild day or a crazy week, I'll go up there and riff about it. And depending on the show, of course. If it's a show, you know, local show or just a quick club show, you know, showcase or something like that, I definitely do it then, because I can find new jokes. I find my new jokes. And that's when I pull out my voice recorder and kind of see what I can pick up, because now I'm riffing. I'm just talking about my day and my week. I'll mix in material with that, so I'm not totally, you know, getting off script. But for the most part, I love those. I actually love those moments. And some of my friends who come to shows often, they're like, "Oh my God, we love when you just randomly talk about shit, you know, like your day, your week," because they've seen the set so many times. I can imagine,
No, but you're right. I think I'm a little bit similar. It's like there's a certain aspect to writing on stage. Some of the best material is like just something happens when you have that audience and your
Yes.
brain, different neurons fire off or something, and you just find that
Yep.
you're creating right there on the spot, and the audience can feel it too, and it's really
They
exhilarating.
really can, and a lot of times they really appreciate it. From what
Yeah.
I've seen, from really small audiences to big audiences, and now I've got more in the habit of recording myself. So now this is new for me. I'm going back listening to the audio and to continuing my writing from there, especially if I found something really, really good on stage.
What's just curious? You mentioned recording yourself. Like, how do you come up with material usually? Are you like a note taker? Do you do writing sessions? Do you like always just have your phone on you and you just record at any moment that an idea pops in?
Yes, I'm very much like Seinfeld, where everything can be a joke.
Yeah.
I heard that he used to annoy his family and friends because he'll be in regular conversation and be like, "Oh, wait, that's a joke. That's a joke." I'm literally pulling out my phone in conversations.
Do you use the notepad or do you use
notes.
the actual voice? Do you use the voice recorder?
Yeah, I just started using this year. I've been voice memoing it out.
Okay, nice.
But I'll do it mid conversation with a person, which can be weird. Like I'll be talking, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, I'm so sorry.
Hilarious.
But they know why now. Like people I'm talking to, they're like, oh yeah, do your thing. But yeah, or if I'm in a place where I can't really voice memo, I'll jot down notes in my phone. I'm always taking notes in my phone, whether it's voice or the notepad.
I'm always fascinated by comics and the different the process for different comics. Like for you, is your material pretty much scripted down to the line once it's been ironed out, or is it kind of a little bit free flow? Like, do you have kind of the outline, but the wording changes a bit each time? I know there's some comics that go different routes. The second?
Yeah, it's the second one. It's free flow. It's free flowing. I kind of have an outline. Mm-hmm. I'll look at my notes before I get on stage, and I have bullet points of the jokes I want to touch on. Some of it is verbatim, but none of it is always the same. Each set, I've always said something a little differently. There's probably about, I'll say 10 jokes max that I say exactly the way it is, because it just landed so much. I got to keep it that way. Those jokes where you're like, this always works this way. Yeah,
that makes sense.
But I play with the wording and everything. So
how do different audiences respond to your material when you travel? Say like when you go to the South or the North or different countries, or like how do you sort of adopt your material, or do you kind of stay with the same stuff and just see what hits or what doesn't?
I do try to point out something about that city. I try to relate to them first before getting into myself. That's the most I've done. I will say that learning different areas, it can be challenging if you're not from that area, and you don't want to come off as hacky, and you don't want to say the same thing that every out of town comic comes here and say. Right. Like, oh, well, the Atlanta Falcons, huh? Like, how about those Falcons, huh? Like,
while
like
doing this falcony thing with the arm.
Yeah, like, they probably heard that shit so many times. So when I'm out of town, I like to pay attention if I'm driving around that day before the show. Whatever I notice when I touch down in that city, I'm just taking notes on whatever I notice so I can present that, that joke as soon as I get on stage and get them to loosen up, because that's something that they know.
Yeah, it's always true, right? Like something that's very local and personal to an audience. And then they know there's a real person there too. It doesn't feel like they're just watching a recording.
Or I'll just give my take on something that they have going on. Like, oh, wow, you guys really love hot dogs down here, huh? Wow, someone tried to shove hot dogs in my face. I almost thought it was sexual assault. I'll say something like, we're in the land of hot dogs or something. I don't know. But like...
I feel like all of America is the land of hot dogs. This is a very hot dog country.
That's what might be for dinner today.
What are some of your biggest comedy influences? Who do you like?
Oh, man. My grandfather introduced me to Richard Pryor when I was a little girl.
Classics.
So I did watch a few of his specials growing up. I was young, so I didn't understand everything, but I would watch how the adults responded. I really wasn't supposed to be watching that shit. But I was... My grandfather would watch that, have me watch that, and I also watched Howard Stern with him.
How old were you?
I was like 6.
Oh my gosh! The rest of us are like watching Sesame Street. You're getting like this insane adult humor coming at you.
I would watch it, but I was such a good kid that he would just be like, whatever.
Hilarious.
But
You're like those Olympians that train at a young age. Yeah.
yes, I was introduced to inappropriate comedy really, really young. I didn't repeat what I heard, but I definitely was listening to it, and I'm like, oh wow! And I saw what got the people going and laughing.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Bernie Mac.
Yep, Bernie Mac's great.
Bernie Mac. Kevin Hart is a huge. He's still huge now. He's still relevant in our comedy world. So he's a big inspiration as well. Oh God. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. He's my favorite white guy with a bald head.
Bill Burr?
His wife is black.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yes.
Bill Burr.
I had a brain fart. I love Bill Burr.
Me too.
I love Bill Burr so, so much. He's one of my favorites as well. Like, he really makes me laugh, even when he's just having regular conversation, when he just regularly talks. He's just a funny guy.
He had that epic clip where he was, I think, wasn't it in Philadelphia? He was heckled in Philadelphia.
When he was, he went on that rant. Oh, man, that really set him off.
That 15-minute rant or whatever. Yeah, it just kept going and going. And the crowd hated him, and then he won them over in the end just by, sticking to his guns.
Yes, I love Dave Chappelle, Lunel.
Yep. Great.
Monique, definitely in her prime when she was doing stand-up. Some more. I enjoyed the kings and queens of comedy, obviously urban comedy. I started tapping into other races in comedy not until my 20s, but growing up, I only really knew urban comedy. Outside of there was a few white boys that would rock the urban comedy scene, but that was it. But like other than that, I just started venturing out more in my 20s, looking into other artists and everything. So, oh God, who do I love right now? She just killed it in the roast. Sorry, I drew a blank. I had an edible. She did. She literally just killed it in the roast. The roast of Tom Brady. She was such a star. Blonde, skinny blonde, vegan. Skinny, I know her whole life, but her name is not clicking in my head right now.
Well, we can if we figure it out, we can put it in like a little subtitle beneath.
Yes.
We'll credit.
But I love a lot of comedians. I grew up, like I said, watching a lot of urban comedy, but as I started venturing into the comedy world myself, I started to obviously check out other people. So it was nice. It's nice. I love funny. I love funny people.
Were you always kind of the funny kid?
I was class clown. I won awards. I was.
You did?
Yeah. There's a picture my grandmother has. I wish I could really find it. I tried to find it when I visited her in Atlanta. I found one. I won best personality in high school. And in middle school, I won class clown. I was holding a rubber chicken, and it said class clown on my certificate. I want to find that photo so bad. But I was a quiet kid up until middle school. Middle school, I just bust out of the shell. I have no idea what happened.
So there was an actual award that was given out for the class clown?
Yep. I wear that thing proudly. I wanted most likely to succeed, but they gave that to someone else. I wonder how they're doing. I don't know.
The class clown might be better. That's not, that might be the more likely to succeed.
Right.
Did you always kind of know in the back of your head, even though you pursued it as an adult, did you always kind of know that you wanted to be a comedian at some level? Did you always kind of feel that within?
It really hit me in high school. Mm-hmm. But I started with, I want to be a comedic actress because I took my first improv class. And taking that first improv class, I had a teacher, Mr. Boyce. And he's a huge reason on also why I do this. Mr. Boyce in high school, cool white guy, man. He really loved us. And this was a predominantly
you
black
get a cool
school.
Teacher, that's great. It's everything.
Yes, it was a predominantly black school too. So like we loved that class. He was the theater teacher, and he had an improv class. I took the class. I was probably in like 10th grade at the time, and that was my introduction to improv in general. So I was just a natural at it. He was just like, wow. And I said to him, I want to do what you do when I get older. And I remember, I will never forget this. He said to me, oh, you're going to go much further than that.
Wow. Interesting.
Encouraging
words.
Never forget him saying that to me.
It's pretty great to have a supportive teacher like that.
Yeah, I told him I wanted to be a teacher that teaches improv or theater. He was like, nah, you're going to go much further than that. That was just like, oh, wow, okay. And then I had the same experience again. I took some acting classes after after college. I went away to college and I still wasn't like, oh, be a comedian. And I didn't want to major in acting because I didn't want my family looking like, okay, you're majoring in acting? Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
like, okay, pick a real career, TaTa. But
Right.
I always felt uneasy about that too, not choosing theater or acting or something like. And I chose PR. I'm like, all right, I'll be a publicist because I was like, let me pick something that's in the entertainment world. And I didn't know what to choose. So I looked at all the comm majors. I was like, okay, communications. And then they like, you have to pick a track to focus on. So I chose PR. So I'm like, all right, I'll be a publicist. Everybody has a publicist, right? They relate to the public. So I got my degree in that. And I still was like I put myself in a lot of entertainment while in college. I was on a dance team. I actually grew up dancing my whole life.
Nice.
I was just always the chunkiest one on the team. So I didn't think dancing was a future for me either. Because I'm like, there's no big girls dancing on the NBA teams and shit, So I always said, okay, this is a hobby. And that's crazy because now I see big women dancing all over the damn TV screen now. I'm like, what happened? Like, it taught me to never give up on your dreams. So I can't give up on comedy. I gave up on dancing. I can't give up on comedy. So
and you're crushing it. Why would you give up now?
Exactly. But I used to crush it when I danced, but I didn't see people that look like me in professional dance spaces. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is just going to be a hobby. But I've been on stage since I was 5. I was always the kid in little plays and in dancing and everything. I broke gender barriers at 5 years old. I got casted as Peter Rabbit. I got casted as a boy rabbit in the school play. You ever heard the story Peter Rabbit?
Yeah.
And I remember I was in kindergarten, and I remember I'll never forget the teacher saying, "Hey, let's have some of the girls try." And I stood up there and said those lines, and they were like, "Oh my God, we found our Peter!"
Wow.
So I've been breaking gender barriers.
Breaking those barriers and performing at a young age and training and getting ready for this moment.
Yes. I will say being on stage for so long, being used to talking to an audience helped me be comfortable with comedy. So I kind of feel like I not bypassed, but I got to skip past that part where people have to get used to talking in front of people. I skipped all that shit. I've been doing it my whole life.
I was going to say, like, do you ever get any degree of stage fright, or is not really too much? It's just like, you just jump up and go.
I get nervous before I go on, just like anybody else, because you want to make sure the crowd likes you and you want to have your jokes land and everything. But actual stage fright while I'm up there, no. Once I'm only nervous like the first 2 minutes in, and then honestly 30 seconds. I'm nervous right before I go on, and once I get up there, if that first joke lands or that second joke lands,
you got 'em. Yeah,
I'm good after that.
So as we sort of wrap up, we've covered a lot of ground. What do you hope people get out of Laugh My Pancreas Off? If there's something that you hope they see, it's obviously coming up soon, August 24th, 6 p.m. doors will open.
Wow. I hope people find new comedians to look out for. It's going to be an awesome lineup. People you might have heard of and people you haven't heard of. So that's going to be really cool to, be discovered, by a new audience that may not have known who I was. And I hope people find a little bit of healing when they leave there. Just a little bit of joy, because I'm guessing a lot of people there either have family members or know someone or, or just want to support in general this whole movement. And it's something that you need to shed light on, because I think people who laugh more live longer.
I think that's true. And I've even read there's some studies showing that there's actual
science backing this. I've read some studies as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great point to wrap up on. Everybody, this has been That Funny Podcast. Be sure to check out TaTa Cherise. TaTa, what's a website they can check you out on?
TaTaCherise.com. That's TaTA. Sherise is spelled like She Rise. That's my middle name, Sherise, SHERISE.com.
Okay, everybody, be sure to check that out. And also, be ready for Laugh My Pancreas Off. Check her out. It's going to be on August 24th, 6 p.m. The doors open at the Trenton Thunder Ballpark. TaTa, thanks for joining today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Matt.